infections related to eyes. Okay, some of them are caused by viruses. So the first would be the drugs used for the treatment of herpes simplex and herpes zoster viral infection. Okay, so we have here the inhibitors of thymidine synthetase, such as idoxuridine. So idoxuridine uh, is less clinically useful now among the three group of drugs that I will mention, okay, because of its poor ocular bioavailability. So, hindi maganda yung kanyang ocular bioavailability as compared to the other two drugs, okay? Particularly, it doesn't like have activity against deep stromal diseases. And idoxuridine is also prone to what we call resistance. Okay, that's why it's only used topically, and we don't use it for systemic use. It's too toxic to be ingested. Okay, so what replace idoxuridine would be the two. The first is vidarabine and trifluridine. So trifluridine and vidarabine are effective inhibitors of thymidine synthetase and inhibits DNA synthesis in virus-infected host cell. Okay, so ginagamit sila clinically in the treatment of primary and secondary herpes simplex virus keratitis, both types 1 and 2. Okay. Next is the more common one that we use for the herpes simplex and herpes zoster viral infection would be the inhibitors of DNA polymerase. Okay, the DNA polymerase inhibitors include, this is the most popular among them, it's acyclovir. Okay, so acyclovir has a very broad spectrum of activity. So it's usually effective against the two types of the herpes simplex virus keratitis, including the herpes zoster virus, okay, and some cytomegaloviruses. And take note that acyclovir is also highly selective as an antibacterial agent because it only inhibits the viral DNA polymerases. They significantly than the host DNA polymerase. Therefore, because of this selectivity, acyclovir has a good safety profile, effectively reducing host toxicity. And what's the good news about acyclovir is that it could be administered at many routes of administration, including oral, okay, intravenous, and of course, topical administration. On the other hand, okay, acyclovir has a better, like, sister or brother, a better sibling. That's called valacyclovir. So valacyclovir is almost the same with acyclovir. It's just that valacyclovir is a prodrug, okay, of acyclovir. It's a prodrug. So this is only available for oral administration. Okay, so those are the uses of the acyclovir. Okay, next we have famciclovir and ganciclovir. Okay, so Famciclovir is also a prodrug. This is also a prodrug. Kung si valacyclovir, the active form is acyclovir. For some famciclovir, the active form is penciclovir. Penciclovir. So penciclovir is also absorbed orally. It's well absorbed orally, and it's rapidly converted to its active form with a very high bioavailability. Okay, so we usually prefer famciclovir because of its superior bioavailability. So it has the same use with acyclovir, but with limited spectrum of activity. So you can use famciclovir for herpes zoster ophthalmicus or HZO and recurrent herpes simplex virus keratitis. For ganciclovir, it has a narrow activity against the herpes simplex virus keratitis. Okay, so those are the common drugs we use for the herpes viruses. Let's now move on to the CMV viruses, okay, or the CM viruses. CM is cytomegalovirus. Okay, it causes CMV retinitis. So this is one of the most common opportunistic pathogens. So again, pag sinabi nating opportunistic pathogen, those patients who are immunocompromised, like our HIV/AIDS patient and patients with transplanted organs, because these types of patients are constantly taking immunosuppressants. So their immune system is literally suppressed. Okay? So, however, yung mga patients with HIV/AIDS, there is already a lower incidence of having CMV retinitis because of the treatment that we use for the treatment of HIV. So, ang gamit natin to treat CMV retinitis is also the drug that we use to treat HIV. Okay? So, ano ba yung tawag sa mga yan? These are called HART, or the highly active antiretroviral therapy. Okay? So, HART or HAART is a treatment strategy combining several antiretroviral drugs. So we commonly use two or more drugs. Okay? Like for example, two or more NRTs. Okay? Ito yung NRTs. The nucleoside reverse transcriptase inhibitors. Nucleoside. Nasa abbreviation naman po. Nucleoside. Okay. Reverse trans inhibitors. Ayan. So, two or more NRTs plus one PI. So, pwedeng PI. PI is protease inhibitor. Or we can also combine two NRTs with one NNRTI. So, ito naman yung one NNRTI. Yeah. So, for example, we can combine like M-tricytabine plus didanosine, example lang, plus ritonavir. Or we can combine it with okay, efavirenz as the NNRTI. So that's called the highly active antiretroviral therapy. So we just need to treat the underlying disease. So the underlying disease here is CMV. Okay, and CMV is usually accompanied with patients, for patients with having HIV infection or immunocompromise. So effectively managing the HIV would significantly decrease the occurrence of CMV retinitis. So that's for uh, the treatment for the CMV infection. So those are the drugs we commonly use for viral infection involving the eye. Let's now move on to antifungal, okay, chemotherapy. So pag sinabi natin antifungal, of course, they could either kill or inhibit the growth of fungi. The first group of drugs we have would be the polyenes, antibiotics. So that include amphotericin B, nystatin, and natamycin. So they are called polyenes. What is their mechanism of action? Their MOA is they inhibit the the enzyme that is synthesizing the cholesterol called ergosterol. Okay, so they inhibit ergosterol synthesis. So inhibiting the ergosterol will inhibit the cell wall, okay, and eventually the cell membrane of the fungal cell. Okay? So para silang mga penicillins. Okay? So they target the cell wall of the fungus and eventually the cell membrane. So targeting the cell wall will of course kill the fungal cell. So ano-ano po ba yung mga treatment natin for ophthalmic infection? So the most common is amphotericin B. Because of its potency, it's usually administered in different types of administration. So we can have it as an intracameral injection. So we use it for severe fungal keratitis. Amphotericin B topical is also effective against Candida keratitis. Sorry. And then for 5% natamycin, okay, this is used in the treatment of filamentous fungal keratitis and Fusarium keratitis. Okay. Cystatin, okay, this is also used topically, but it has limited application in the eyes. Okay? So usually mga topical na fungal infection lang ginagamit cystatin. Like for example, thrush. Pwede rin natin gamitin cystatin for thrush. Ano nga yung thrush? Singaw. Yung source, oral source. Okay? Next, we have the antimetabolites. We only have one drug under the antimetabolites. It's called flucytosine. Okay, so flucytosine is a prodrug which is converted to 5-fluorouracil, okay, which inhibits thymidine synthesis, impairing the formation of the DNA. This is largely fungistatic, okay, and resistance can develop. So to avoid resistance, we should use flucytosine with other antifungal drugs. Okay? And it has a narrow spectrum of activity against yeast only. Okay? Yeast. So more on yeast ginagamit si flucytosine. cytosine. Okay. Next would be azoles. Okay, so we have two types of azoles. We have the imidazoles, and triazoles. So sino yung mga imidazoles natin? That include ketoconazole, okay, miconazole, and clotrimazole. Wala dyan yung isa. Clotrimazole. Okay, the rest are triazoles. That includes voriconazole, posaconazole, itraconazole, ano pa? Yun na yun. Nabanggit ko na lahat, di ba? Pero pa ba ako hindi nabanggit? Those are the triazoles. Okay? So, what's the difference between the two? Actually, not much with like the difference. It's just that yung mga triazoles, uh, they are more potent. So they can be administered in variety of like dosage form or routes of administration. So imidazoles kasi, ina-avoid natin silang ibigay systemically sometimes because they can be too toxic. So more on topical administration yung mga imidazole. Like for example, si ketoconazole, di ba, if you have like dandruff, you can like try the Nizoral shampoo. So Nizoral has ketoconazole. Okay, oral thrush or sores, you can try miconazole, Dactarin. Yan. Pero in the meantime yata parang out of stock ang mga Dactarin sa market. I think they will rebrand. Okay? And then clotrimazole, it's also topical. Diba si Canesten? So Canesten is administered also as a cream for like superficial skin fungal infection. Okay? So how do they like inhibit fungal growth? So kanina for polyins, they directly block ergos sterol. Tama? Yung mga azoles naman, okay, they don't usually directly block ergosterol. Okay, they block the precursor for ergosterol, which is called lanosterol. Ayan. So lanosterol is like the precursor for ergosterol. So they usually block that. And azoles could also inhibit the mammalian cytochrome P450. So do you still remember the cytochrome P450? Ito yung mga enzymes natin for what phase? Phase 1 or phase 2? Metabolism. Let's review your pharmacokinetics. Can you help me? Phase 1 or phase 2? Yung mga CYP 450 enzyme. Saan ko tinuro yan? No comment? Correct. Okay, phase 1. Ano nga ang klaseng phase 1? Reduction, oxidation, or hydrolysis? Do you still remember sino yung minimediate nilang phase 1 reaction? Reduction, oxidation, or hydrolysis? You can check your notes. Correct. Okay, very good. Yan, ang galing, oh. They are responsible for the majority of oxidative metabolism in the body. Oxidation. Correct. Okay, don't forget those, yeah. So inhibiting cytochrome P450, you can be called enzyme inhibitor. That's why may mga notorious na mga azoles na enzyme inhibitor like si ketoconazole. Ketoconazole is a notorious enzyme inhibitor. Okay? So azoles are usually used to treat aspergillus, okay, or aspergillosis, candidiasis, and infection related to Fusarium. So fluconazole is only effective against yeasts like Candida and Cryptococcus. So Cryptococcus, mga doc, is another opportunistic pathogen. Opportunistic din yan. So normally, hindi nagkakaroon ng ganyan yung mga immunocompetent. Only the immunocompromised could have like Cryptococcus infection. Okay? So, nakukuha po yung Cryptococcus na yan sa sa mm, yung nagbubundok. Kasi ang naglalabas ng fungal spores na yan ay yung mga ah ano yun? Mga bats, okay? Yung mga bats or pigeons. So, di ba usually ang mga bats nasa cave. Kaya yung iba, ah pag yung pupo ng mga bats ay nandun sa cave, eh, syempre malalanghap mo yung hangin. So you can like inhale the spores. If you are immunocompromised, you will have, okay, Cryptococcus infection. But if you're immunocompetent, you won't have. So it's just an opportunistic pathogen. So this is related to those who does spelunking, spelunker's disease. So it's like related to spelunking. Okay? Here. Yeah. Bats, birds. Basta yung mga nakatira sa mga cave. Okay? Next, voriconazole. This is used in the treatment for aspergillosis. Okay, or aspergillus infection. Okay. Last, we have the echinocandins. So echinocandins are easy to like because all of them are ending in fungin. Fungin. Yeah. Fungin. Like caspofungin, mycofungin, and anidulafungin. Those are the echinocandins. Okay, so they target the fungal cell wall by inhibiting the glucan synthesis. So kanina polyenes, ergosterol. Okay, for antimetabolites, more on DNA synthesis inhibitor. For the azoles, it's more on lanosterol precursor to inhibit ergosterol. And for echinocandins, it's more on what? Glucan synthesis to inhibit cell wall. Okay, so they also have like wide range of activity against candida, okay, and some azole resistant organisms. So if you become like resistant to azoles, okay, you can take this drug as an alternative. In combination with voriconazole, echinocandins treat both endogenous and exogenous endophthalmitis. Okay, pero the causative agent should be from fungal spores. Okay, so that's it for the antifungal agents. Let's now move on to the last group of antimicrobial agents. This would be the antiprotozoal drugs. So they target protozoa. Okay, so sino ba yung common protozoan that infects the eye? It's Acanthamoeba. Okay, causing Acanthamoeba keratitis. So, si Acanthamoeba keratitis could be treated using two group of drugs. The first one is the biguanides. Okay, the most common among them is the PHMB or the polyhexamethylene biguanide. This is the preferred agent, either in combination or as a monotherapy. Okay, we can also use chlorhexidine, which is a bisbiguanide, as a monotherapy, but it doesn't appear to be effective when used in combination. Okay, so we have the other groups like the diamidines, okay, which include propamidine, hexamidine, and pentamidine. So resolution of acanthamoeba keratitis often require many months of treatment with these drugs. So the more common would be the biguanides. Okay. Next, we have ocular toxoplasmosis. So ano naman yung toxoplasmosis? So si toxoplasmosis naman, kung kanina, kay saan nga nanggaling yung Cryptococcus neoformans, guys? Saan nga nanggaling? Can you help me recall the Cryptococcus neoformans? Saan nanggaling from yung mga ano po? Hmm? Can you help me in the chat box? Saan nga nanggaling from yung mga ano po? Birds and bats. Ayun, galing. Birds and bats na nasa cave. Correct. Okay? Ito namang toxoplasmosis, nanggaling naman siya yung, di ba, birds and bats na feces contaminated with Cryptococcus neoformans. For this naman, mga doc, tatandaan nyo kay toxoplasmosis, it came from the contaminated feces naman of the cats, of cat, like pusa. Okay? So, when you like expose to contaminated cat feces, you can have toxoplasmosis. So it can also cause posterior and anterior infection, okay, like uveitis. Yan. So toxoplasmosis is recurrent. Sometimes it's difficult to treat. It could be potentially blinding. Okay, this is caused by Toxoplasma gondii. Toxoplasma. Okay, so that's from the contaminated feces of the cats. Yung kanina, Cryptococcus neoformans, bats, and birds. Pero more common yung like bats. Okay, so how do we treat it? We treat it using triple therapy. Okay, which includes pyrimethamine, okay, sulfasalazine or clindamycin with folinic acid plus steroid. So we combine them with steroids to reduce inflammatory condition associated with anterior or posterior uveitis. Okay. Two other agents also show promising potential in ocular toxoplasmosis treatment is atovaquone and azithromycin. Pero the more common one is pyrimethamine, either plus either sulfadiazine, clindamycin, and then steroid. Optional yung folinic acid or leucovorin. So leucovorin or folinic acid is a rescue drug for pyrimethamine. Kasi yung iba, intolerant with the use of pyrimethamine. So we need to co-administer it with a rescue drug. So the rescue drug is folinic acid or leucovorin. Okay, so that's for the anti-protozoal agents. So those are the common ocular infections caused by protozoa. So the last few slides, mga doc, are just summary of the ocular antimicrobial agents. So you can just like read them if you have time. I classified here the name of the drug, the formulation, and then the toxicity and the clinical use. So if you notice, yan, talagang mga inflammatory conditions po ang tina-target nila. Okay, because the inflammatory conditions are usually caused by microbes like bacteria, viruses, and then fungus. Okay, and then this one also for the antiviral. So na-discuss na po natin tong mga to, kaya i-run through ko na lang. And for the antifungal agents. Okay, so that's just the summary of everything I discussed. Okay, so do you have any question regarding the following? Regarding the antimicrobial agents? Yeah, that's it. Okay, kung walang question, can I see heart reactions? Sorry, heart reaction. Ayun. Ayan, let me check. Madam President, parang ang konti nung sumagot ng anti-inflam. Bakit ang konti nyo?
Baka na-inflame na po ang
Na-inflame. Kayo talaga. Ayan, ang konti nung sumagot, parang nasa 76 lang, hindi man lang umabot ng 100. Okay, so uh, I'll just give the link of your assessments to Her Excellency, our Madam President. Okay, si Doc. Bibigay ko na lang yung assessment niya for the antimicrobials and you can answer them please answer them before our last meeting. Doon ko i-rationalize lahat ng mga remaining assessments ninyo. Okay? Yeah. So magbibigay ako sa inyo ng mga link para mag-practice kayo. Okay? Yeah, and then we can start again with another topic, Madam President. Break tayo ng 5 minutes before yung anti-hypertensive. Pwede pa rin po sagutan. Yes, of course. Do you still have the link? You can have the link. Napagod ba kayo sa antimicrobial? Napagod sila? Grabe. Oo. Ano lang tayo? Kaya pa, maaga pa masyado. Mag-i-start tayo ng anti-hypertensive agents. Okay? So, mga 3, 3:35. 5 minutes. Bladder break lang. Okay po. Okay, Doc, can you like see the screen?
Yes po.
Okay. So let's now proceed with antihypertensive agents. So these are important group of drugs that manage high blood pressure. So let's proceed with the definition of blood pressure. When we talk about the blood pressure, this is the outward pressure against the blood vessel wall, and it is the product of the blood flow from the heart and the inward resistance of the vessel walls. So it's largely uh, like dependent on two main factors. So sino yung dalawang factors which are mainly affecting the blood pressure? We can collectively call them the CO or the cardiac output and then the peripheral vascular resistance. Okay, so if we target both the cardiac output and the peripheral vascular resistance, we can effectively lower the blood pressure. So this is where our drugs are usually acting upon. So they either target the cardiac output or they target the peripheral vascular resistance. Let's proceed first with the factors affecting the cardiac output. So ano-ano po ba yung factors affecting the cardiac output? The cardiac output is defined as the volume of the blood, okay, pumped by the heart in each minute. So that's called the cardiac output, volume of the blood pumped by the heart in each minute. And cardiac output is determined by the stroke volume and then the heart rate. The heart rate is also known as chronotropy. I already mentioned this terminology previously, right? Heart rate is chronotropy, okay? Which is defined as the number of beat per minute. So beat of the heart per minute, that's heart rate, okay? For stroke volume, on the other hand, this is the volume pumped by the heart in each beat, okay, or in each contraction. That's called stroke volume. So effectively managing the heart rate and the stroke volume could effectively influence the cardiac output. Okay, so for example, if the drug slows down the heart rate, okay, slows down the heart rate. So pag mabagal ang heart rate, bababa ang cardiac output. And lowering the cardiac output will also lower the blood pressure. That's why there are some drugs that could effectively slow down the heart rate. Slowing down the heart rate could indirectly affect the cardiac output, therefore lowering the blood pressure. Okay, let's talk about now deeper with stroke volume. So stroke volume has many factors. Okay, the first one is what we call inotropy. I've already also mentioned this previously in the autonomics. Okay, inotropy is the strength of cardiac contractility or cardiac contraction. So if a drug could lower contraction, tama? So lowering the inotropy could lower the stroke volume. Lowering the stroke volume would lower the cardiac output and therefore lowering the blood pressure. Okay? So may mga gamot pa tayo that could target the strength of contraction. Yes, so later you will see the different like drugs that could target different parameters of the blood pressure. Next, we have the preload, which is also known as the venous return or the end diastolic volume. So, pag sinabi nating preload, this is the volume of the blood in the ventricles prior to contraction. That's why it's called the venous return. It's the end diastolic volume at the beginning of the systole. That's called the cardiac preload. Okay. And there are two contributors of the cardiac preload, the tones of the veins. So there are some drugs that could affect the veins, relaxing them and contracting them. So if you relax the veins, that's called dilation of the veins. And then kapag kinokontract mo naman ang veins, that's called vasoconstriction of the veins. Vasoconstriction, okay, meaning contraction of the walls of the veins could increase the cardiac preload, right? Increasing the cardiac preload will increase the stroke volume, and increasing the stroke volume will increase the cardiac output and eventually increasing the blood pressure. So, will drugs that could relax or dilate the veins help in lowering the blood pressure? Yes. Okay? Kasi anong ginagawa ng mga venodilators specifically? Okay? They lower the cardiac preload. Lowering the preload will lower the stroke volume and eventually the cardiac output. Okay? Next, we have the fluid content of the blood. Okay? So this is what we call the blood volume. This pertains to the salts which are present in your blood, which is what we call sodium. So I told you if there is sodium retention, mga doc, di ba? Anong ginagawa ka ni sodium? Sodium attracts large volume of water. So where sodium goes, water follows. So if sodium is retained inside the body, that would attract large volume of water to be also retained inside the body. So that will increase the blood volume. More sodium means more blood volume. So more blood volume will increase the preload. Increasing the preload will increase the stroke volume, eventually increasing the cardiac output and increasing the blood pressure. So how do we manage blood pressure? High blood pressure, we can manage it by lowering these important parameters. Diba? We can lower the blood volume. How can we lower it? Okay, we can lower with the use of diuretics. Diba? Anong ginagawa ng mga diuretics? They facilitate sodium excretion. And sabi ko nga sa inyo, where sodium goes, water follows. If sodium goes out, along with the urine, it will attract large volume of water to be also excreted along with the ion. So that would lower the blood volume. So lowering the blood volume will lower the stroke volume, lower the cardiac output, and eventually it will lower the blood pressure. So as you can see, the drugs that we have in the market target specific part or factor affecting the blood pressure. So later, we will discuss them individually. Last, we have the peripheral vascular resistance. This is also known as the systemic vascular resistance or the afterload. Okay, so this is largely affected by the tones of the arteries. Kaya pag tinanong kayo, which directly influences the blood pressure? Is it the arteries or the veins? which directly influences the blood pressure, the tones of the arteries or the veins. It's the arteries, correct? Because they contain higher pressure. If the arteries are constricted, okay, they are undergoing contraction, that's arteriolar contraction, which leads to vasoconstriction. Okay, that will increase the systemic vascular resistance, directly increasing the blood pressure. Kaya the arteries are the main dictators of blood pressure in terms of the blood vessels. If we compare the arteries and the veins, the veins could only indirectly affect the stroke volume. Tama? Affecting the stroke volume will affect the cardiac output. So it only indirectly influences the blood pressure. But for the arteries, it directly affects the blood pressure. That's why dilating, okay, the arteries would effectively lower your systemic vascular resistance, therefore effectively lowering the blood pressure. So SVR or PVR is defined as the resistance, okay, to blood flow encountered by the heart to pump out blood. Okay, so that's called afterload. This is determined by the tones of the arteries, or what we call the resistance vessels. Okay, so again, yung mga vasodilators natin dito papasok. Okay, some of them could dilate the arteries and some of them could dilate the veins. The more powerful vasodilators, okay, could dilate both the arteries and the veins. Pero by default, vasodilators could dilate more on the arteries, but not the veins. Yung mga highly efficacious na vasodilators could dilate both blood vessels. Okay, so what's hypertension? Hypertension is a disease, okay, that occurred due to sustained systole of greater 140 millimeters of mercury and sustained diastole of greater than 90 millimeters of mercury. So it depends on the organization who defined the hypertension. For the American Heart Association, it's only 140 over 90 millimeters of mercury. But for the World Health Organization, it's a little bit higher, 160 over 95 millimeters of mercury. So I also have here the classification of hypertension, which were defined by two organizations. The first one is the JNC, or the Joint National Committee. Okay, so the normal blood pressure is less than 120 over 80 millimeters of mercury. If your blood pressure is between 120 to 135 over 80 to 89, you are considered pre-hypertensive. So diet and exercise is usually recommended. But if your blood pressure exceeds more than 140 over 90, okay, you are considered hypertensive. Stage 1 is between 140 to 159 over 90 to 99. Stage 2 is more than 160 over 100. Okay, so this requires diet, exercise, same as pre-hypertensive patients, plus, okay, anti-hypertensive agent. So it depends on the stages. For stage 1, we can consider having monotherapy. And then for stage 2, dual therapy. So we can combine 2 or more drugs to effectively lower the blood pressure. On the other hand, we have a more recent classification, by the American Heart Association and the American College of Cardiology. They still have the same normal blood pressure, which is less than 180, 120 over 80 millimeters of mercury. For elevated, wala silang pre-hypertension, only elevated hypertension. It's 120 to 129 over less than 80. So again, this warrants diet and exercise. Okay. And then for stage 1, we have 130 to 139 over 80 to 89. For stage 2, 140 over 90. And then we have a new category, which is hypertensive crisis, which is more than 180 over 120 for the systole and diastole, respectively. Okay, so pag hypertensive crisis, it requires the patient to be taken to emergency care department and requires the administration of intravenous antihypertensive drugs. Okay, let's now move on to the complications of hypertension. So may namatay na ba sa hypertension? Okay, wala pong namamatay sa hypertension. Okay, unless ma-stroke yung patient natin. But most of the time, sustained high blood pressure does not result to death, but to target organ damages. So that's what untreated hypertension does to our body. It slowly kills us by targeting the other organs in the body. And one of which is, of course, our eyes. Okay, sustained untreated hypertension can lead to retinopathy. Of course, the brain, it could trigger stroke, okay, or myocardial infarction. For your blood vessels, you could have peripheral vascular disease like atherosclerosis. Okay, you can also have like kidney disease, renal failure. So, di ba nagtataka yung iba, bakit ako nagka-kidney failure? Eh, okay naman ako. So, sometimes it's your untreated hypertension that cause renal failure. And of course, hypertension could also cause heart diseases, okay? Like the congestive heart disease and heart failure, okay? Including left ventricular heart disease, okay? So what's our goal? Our goal for hypertension is to manage the symptoms of hypertension. And how can we manage it? We have to manage both the cardiac output and the systemic vascular resistance. So these are like the specific diseases that could increase, okay, both cardiac output and the systemic vascular resistance. So you can just read them on your own. But overall, increasing both cardiac output and the SVR will increase your blood pressure, therefore causing hypertension. Okay, so our goal is to lower the cardiac output or the systemic vascular resistance. Kaya nga, di ba, uso sa mga anti-hypertensive drug yung kino-combine natin yung 2 or more drugs to address both the cardiac output and the systemic vascular resistance. Okay? Let's now move on to the etiology of hypertension. Ano ba yung nagkakos sa hypertension? Okay? Approximately, guys, more commonly, the cause of hypertension is usually what? No specific cause. So it's called primary or essential hypertension. So most of the time, mga doc, hypertension is primary and it has no specific cause. But the genes from our parents, the one we inherit, could contribute to primary or essential hypertension at approximately 30%. Okay? Others naman develop hypertension because of their comorbidities. So, meron po silang comorbidities. So, pag sinabi nating patients with specific etiology, okay, they have secondary hypertension. So, they have comorbidities like your renal artery constriction, coarctation of the artery, pheochromocytoma, Cushing's, hyperaldosteronism, and other diseases. So, basta may sakit ka na talaga, tapos yung symptom ng sakit ay pwedeng mataas yung blood pressure. Ang tawag doon secondary. Pero most of the time, it's primary or essential. Okay? So that's for the etiology. Let's now move on how the body regulates the blood pressure. Okay? Our own body has compensatory mechanisms to manage the blood pressure or to regulate blood pressure. So there are two important regulators of the blood pressure. The first one is the baroreflex arc or the baroreflexes. Pwede rin natin siyang tawaging baroreflexes. Okay, so the baroreflexes are, ito na pala, nakasulat na, hindi kasi binabasa ang PowerPoint. Okay, so baroreflexes. Ayan, so they are responsible for rapid moment-to-moment regulation or adjustment in blood pressure. This is very important in a changing posture. So ito yung sinasabi ko sa inyo na pag nakahiga ka, bigla kang tumayo, you can exhibit postural hypotension. Diba? Bigla kang may hilo. Postural hypotension. So, from like reclining, nakahiga ka, and then you stand up in an upright position, your body, okay, will experience orthostatic hypotension or postural orthostatic or postural hypotension. So the one that will normalize, okay, postural or orthostatic hypotension would be your baroreflexes. So the baroreflexes or the baroreceptors are usually found on two locations, your blood vessels and your heart. So pag napansin ng baroreceptors mo na, uy, nag-change siya ng posisyon. Okay, bumaba yung blood pressure niya. Magsisend siya ng signal going to the brain. Okay? Going to the adrenal medulla. Diba? The adrenal medulla is the one that contain the vasomotor area, which regulates your blood pressure. So, ang gagawin ng brain mo, pag na-recognize na, uy, tama si baroreceptor, mababa yung blood pressure, anong gagawin niya? It will send, okay, back a signal. So, sinong isa-send niya? Sinong ipapadala niya? Si norepinephrine. So, dahil mababa yung blood pressure mo, anong gagawin ni norepinephrine? Norepinephrine will constrict your blood vessels. Okay? Pag kinonstrict niya, tataas yung peripheral vascular resistance mo. Tama? Pangalawa, it will cause positive effects in the heart through the beta-1 receptor. Tama? Increase heart rate and increase contraction. Ano nga yung heart rate? Positive chronotropy. Increase contraction is positive inotropy. And that would affect your cardiac output. And therefore, will increase your blood pressure. So mga doc, the baroreflexes occurs within seconds after changing posture. Kaya kayo mga bata-bata pa, pag bigla kayong tumayo, di ba, you will experience brief dizziness. Napapansin niyo ba yon? Brief lang yung dizziness ninyo. Because after a few seconds, okay, your baroreflex will be activated and will normalize your blood pressure. Pero sa mga may edad, the baroreflexes uh, is losing its efficacy kapag po nag-reach ng adulthood na like yung mga elderly. Kaya pag yung mga elderly nagbago ng posisyon, talagang buong araw na silang may hilo. Okay? They will experience severe dizziness associated with postural or orthostatic hypotension. And then we have the RAAS, or the renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system. So this is controlling your blood volume and for long-term blood pressure control. So ito po yung responsible for your long-term management of blood pressure. Pag po brief, rapid, moment to moment, it's your baroreflexes. Example, tumakay ka ng rides. Diba, hinagis-hagis ka ng rides, nahilo ka. Pero after few seconds, kung bata-bata ka pa nga, after few seconds of like getting out of the ride, you will have no dizziness. Okay, because your baroreflexes are well activated. Okay? Bigla kang ginulat. Kaya minsan nagbabago rin yung blood pressure natin. Okay, so guys, this is the RAAS that I told you. This is for long-term like regulation of your blood pressure. If you try to examine, it all starts in the kidney. Okay? Paano pa na-activate yung RAAS? If there is decreased renal perfusion. So pag mababa ang blood flow sa kidney, pwedeng ma-activate yung tinatawag nating renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system. Okay? So decrease in the renal perfusion, okay, together with beta-1 activation in the kidney, beta-1 receptor activation in the kidney promotes the secretion of the enzyme renin. Renin converts the inactive protein called angiotensinogen to become angiotensin 1. Angiotensin 1 has no clinical use inside the body. It should be readily activated to become angiotensin 2. So angiotensin 2 is the one which has many effects inside the body. So conversion of angiotensin 1 to angiotensin 2 is through the enzyme ACE. Ano yung ACE? Okay, ACE is angiotensin converting enzyme. Okay, so ACE or angiotensin converting enzyme facilitates the conversion of angiotensin 1 to angiotensin 2. So angiotensin 2, mga doc, is the main culprit in making your blood pressure really high, or it's the main culprit for hypertension. Usually for those patients with high blood pressure or hypertension, their RAAS is not well regulated. They excessively produce angiotensin 2, in which angiotensin 2 will increase adrenergic innervation or the fight or flight response. Diba? The fight or flight response will increase your cardiac output and peripheral vascular resistance. It could also promote the reabsorption of important ions like sodium. I told you retaining sodium would also retain water. So this will increase your blood volume. Increasing the blood volume will increase the stroke volume, and therefore increasing the cardiac output. It could also trigger, angiotensin 2 could also trigger aldosterone secretion, which also promotes sodium retention. It could also directly contract the blood vessels, including the arteries. Okay, so constricting the arteries will increase, okay, the PVR, therefore increasing your blood pressure. And, okay, secretion of the antidiuretic hormone that will, okay, facilitate the reabsorption of water. So water is retained inside the body. And again, that would indirectly increase your blood pressure. So how can we manage effectively the high blood pressure? We can manage it using drugs that could target the different, okay, actions of angiotensin 2. Okay, the eff- the the effects of angiotensin 2. So can we try? Pwede ba tayong mag-isip-isip? Kapag po, okay, sympathetic activity, sino yung mga pwede nating ibigay? Okay? Para ma-manage yung increased sympathetic activity, we can give the sympatholytics or the sympathoplegics or the adrenergic antagonist. Diba? These drugs will effectively block the sympathetic innervation. Like for example, your beta blockers. The mga beta blockers are sympatholytics. So they can block the sympathetic activity. So beta blockers are used for hypertension. How about to promote the excretion of salt and water? We can use diuretics. Diba? Diuretics effectively promote salt and water excretion. So pag bumaba yung blood volume, bababa yung blood pressure. Okay? We could also inhibit the secretion of aldosterone and, okay, antidiuretic hormone. So there are drugs which are inhibitors of aldosterone and ADH or the antidiuretic hormone. We could also, okay, activate the relaxation of the vascular smooth muscle. We can use vasodilators. Okay? Vasodilators could effectively reverse vasoconstriction. It will dilate the blood vessels. May question po si Doc, may effect po ba alpha-2 agonist? Yes. Alpha-2 agonist could also reduce sympathetic activity. Tama ka dyan, Doc. Ayan. Nilimit ko lang kasi yung mga example ko. So, alpha-2 agonist, sir. Sabi mo agonist yan. Bakit yan ay nagdi-decrease ng sympathetic activity? Because remember, alpha-2 receptor is presynaptic. Anong net effect ng presynaptic receptor? It will prevent norepinephrine from being released in the presynapse. So, blocking norepinephrine, correct, will reduce the sympathetic activity, therefore reducing the blood pressure. Okay? Merong mga gamot naman na hindi binablock yung, okay, effect ni angiotensin 2. Okay? Ang ginagawa nila is binablock mismo nila si angiotensin 2, yung kanyang synthesis at saka yung receptor niya. So, sino yung mga gamot na yun? For blocking ACE, we call them the ACE inhibitors. Okay? For blocking angiotensin 2 receptor, we call those ARBs, angiotensin receptor blockers. So blocking angiotensin 2 and blocking ACE could effectively reduce the formation of angiotensin 2, therefore reducing the blood pressure. So kung mapapansin nyo mga doc, Di ba? All the antihypertensive agents could lower the blood pressure by affecting the RAAS or the renin angiotensin aldosterone system. So, kasi nga po, the angiotensin 2 is the main culprit in elevated blood pressure. Okay? Meron pa siyang mga effect-effect. Ayan, nasabi ko na po lahat yan. Okay. So what are the goals in the treatment of hypertension? Of course, we have to lower the blood volume. Okay? Paano nga natin malolower ang blood volume? Can you help me in the chat box? Anong sabi ko? We can use letter D. The diuretics. Correct. Okay. We can also lower the cardiac output. So, depende kung anong ina-address nila sa cardiac output. Okay, pwedeng stroke volume. Okay, pwedeng heart rate. Yan. And we could also reduce peripheral vascular resistance using arteriolar vasodilators. And of course, managing the blood pressure will limit organ complication associated with untreated hypertension. Okay? So yun ang goal natin. We have to reduce the sign. The sign is reducing the blood pressure. Okay? So what are the major classes of antihypertensive agents? So we'll run them through, mga doc, not much in the details, okay? But at the very least, you will have like an overview of how these drugs work. Because sometimes may mga lumalabas daw po na antihypertensive agents sa inyong exam. So it's important for you to recognize the classification of antihypertensive agents, their mechanisms of action, their clinical uses, and of course, their side effects. Yun yung lagi niyong tatandaan pag nag-aaral kayo ng mga gamot. Yung classification niya, mechanism of action, clinical use, side effects. Yan yung dapat na mga minimum knowledge that you need to retain when you learn about different drugs. Kaya po ba ng cholinergic drug for hypertension? Ano pong pampababa ng cholinergic drugs? Do you mean po, Doc? Pampababa ng blood pressure? Yes po, sympathetic. Like for example, you will enhance acetylcholine, right? Kasi acetylcholine could reduce like heart rate and reduce contraction. Tama. Negative ino and negative chrono. Okay, however, ang hindi lang maganda kapag gumamit ka ng mga parasympathomimetic is that norepinephrine could still work. Nagets mo? It's left uninhibited. Yeah. If you enhance the effect of acetylcholine, nandito pa rin si norepinephrine that could activate certain receptors that could trigger high blood pressure, like yung RAAS. Diba? Binding of norepinephrine and the beta-1 receptor in the kidneys could activate the RAAS. So it will cancel out the effect of acetylcholine. Yeah. So we don't usually use parasympathomimetics to treat hypertension. Okay? More on mga sympatholytics or sympathoplegics. Those that could block sympathetic innervation. Okay po, Doc? Nasagot ko ba ang katanungan mo? Okay. Yeah. So, as I mentioned, mga doc, we can use 4 different classes: the diuretics, the sympathoplegics. This is what I was telling about doc kanina. For the autonomic drugs, enhancing acetylcholine is not enough because norepinephrine is left uninhibited. So, it's more beneficial to inhibit norepinephrine and epinephrine, okay, at their adrenergic synapses, okay, to lower blood pressure. Okay, so gumagamit tayo ng mga sympathoplegics. We also use direct vasodilators and the angiotensin antagonists. Okay, let's proceed now with the diuretics. So diuretics, mga doc, could lower the blood pressure, okay, by lowering the blood volume. So you know that already. Lowering the blood volume will lower the stroke. Lower nga eh. Lowering the blood volume by increasing sodium, okay, excretion will lower, okay, the stroke volume. Lowering the stroke volume will lower the cardiac output and eventually lowering the blood pressure. So diuretics could indirectly lower the blood pressure by lowering the blood volume. So paano yun? By depleting the body of sodium. Okay? So these are the diuretics we use for, okay, different diseases. Those that could modify salt excretion. So ang tawag sa kanila ay natriuretic. Okay? Sir, pwede ba nating i-excrete lang yung sodium? Yes. Okay? Pag in-excrete mo si sodium, I told you it will attract large amount of water. So, it would also deplete your blood volume. So, tatandaan yan. Pwedeng si sodium lang. So, sino-sino po yung mga gamot natin that could modify salt excretion or they are called natriuretic? We have the carbonic anhydrase inhibitors. So medyo familiar, di ba? This is also an anti-glaucoma drug. We have the loop diuretics, the thiazide diuretics, and the potassium-sparing diuretics. Okay? For drugs that could modify water excretion, ibig sabihin, they don't affect they don't affect salt excretion, primarily sodium. They only excrete water. So we call them aquaretics. Aquaretics. So sino po yung mga aquaretics? We have the osmotic diuretics, the ADH agonist, and the ADH antagonist. ADH is anti-diuretic hormone. Okay? How about for hypertension? Lahat ba ng mga diuretics are ginamit for hypertension? No. Okay, the most common that we use for hypertension is what we call the thiazide diuretics. They are usually combined with other drugs, diba? Like losartan, amlodipine. Kanina siya nakakombine? Hydrochlorothiazide. Diba? Ganyan yung mga gamot ng mga nanay, lola nyo, tatay or mga lolo nyo, di ba? Or kung ikaw mismo, kung meron kang hypertension. So, thiazide diuretics are commonly combined with other antihypertensive drugs. If the patient has severe hypertension, we can opt to use the loop diuretics. Bakit siya ginagamit for severe hypertension? Because these are high ceiling diuretics. So, ibig sabihin ng high ceiling, they are very effective in facilitating the excretion of sodium. So, pag sumobra ka ng loop diuretic, pwede kang ma-dehydrate. dahil nilalabas mo ng matindi yung sodium. Okay? So, excreting too much sodium could also be fatal on your body and can lead to death. So, these are high ceiling diuretics, yung mga loop diuretics. How about for the potassium spaters? Okay, yung mga potassium spaters natin, they are used both to avoid excessive potassium depletion. Okay, because when you excrete sodium, okay, sometimes potassium ions are also excreted. There is what we call potassium wasting when we also excrete sodium. Okay, so I told you diuretics could, okay, enhance the efficacy of other antihypertensive agents like the ACE inhibitors, okay, and the vasodilators. Yung sinabi ko nga kanina, amlodipine, that's a vasodilator. Okay, for ACE inhibitor, captopril. Yeah, so we often combine those drugs together. Okay, so these are the diuretics used for hypertension. Okay, the first one would be the loop diuretics. So the loop diuretics are the highest ceiling among the diuretics. Okay, ang pangit lang sa kanila is some of them, okay, or most of them, yung mga nag-e-end sa mide at okay, nide, most of them are derived from sulfonamides or sulfa drugs. So again, if you have allergy to sulfonamides, you have to avoid taking these loop diuretics. Okay, si ethacrenic acid lang ang hindi derived from sulfonamides. Okay? Yeah. Next, the most common use for hypertension is the thiazide diuretics like hydrochlorothiazide, HCTZ, okay, chlorothiazide. Okay, those are the common forms of thiazide diuretics. For the potassium sparers, or yung complete name, potassium sparing diuretics, we have spironolactone, triamterene, amiloride, and eplerenone. So let's proceed one by one with their mechanism of action. Okay, all of these diuretics are acting in the nephron. Okay, hindi ko naman po ipapa-intindi sa inyo in details yung effect sa nephron, but at the very least, you should have an idea kung saan sila nag-act. Okay? So, meron pong important parts yung nephron natin, mga doc. The first part is the proximal convoluted tubule or the PCT. The second part is the loop of Henle. Loop of Henle. So, dalawa yung important subpart ng loop of Henle. Yung thin descending limb and thick ascending limb. Okay, of the loop of Henle. Okay? Ano yung third? Okay, the third important part is the distal convoluted tubule. Third part is the distal convoluted tubule. And the last part, the fourth, is the collecting tubule. Collecting tubule. Okay? Clear na po? So, alamin natin kung saan nag-a-act yung mga, ang focus lang po natin ay yung mga diuretics used for hypertension. Okay? So, sino po yung nag-a-act sa proximal convoluted tubules? So, those acting there include, number one, the carbonic anhydrase inhibitors or the CAIs. CAIs are working. Di ba? Sino nga yung CAI na naalala nyo? It starts with letter A. Do you still remember yung diniscuss ko sa anti-glaucoma? Aceta. Medyo mahaba lang yung pangalan niya. Acetaminophen. Ano po? Hintayin ko po. Ayun. Acetazolamide. Galing ni Doc. Oh. Okay, acetazolamide. Those are the Kais. Okay? Sino pang nag-act sa proximal convoluted tubule? Okay, we have mannitol. Mannitol also works in the proximal convoluted tubule, including caffeine. Caffeine. Di ba sabi ko sa inyo, caffeine is a mild diuretic. So it acts on the PCT. PCT. Anong meron sa PCT? Sinong nare-reabsorb dito? Tandaan nyo po, yung ating nephron, mahilig siyang mag-reabsorb ng mga ions. Okay? Yun yung default na function niya. Resorb, resorb, resorb. Pero yung mga gamot natin, anong ginagawa? Ini-inhibit yung reabsorption. Yun yung default naman na ginagawa ng gamot. Inhibits the reabsorption. So, sinong nare-reabsorb sa ating PCT? Okay, ang number 1 dyan ay si sodium bicarbonate. Okay? So, ang na-reabsorb ay si sodium tsaka si bicarbonate. Kaya 'di ba, Kais could also cause the excretion of bicarbonate. Naalala nyo si acetazolamide. Okay? And Kais could also be considered as diuretics. Why? Bakit sila diuretics? Because they could also excrete sodium in the proximal convoluted tubule. Okay? So again, excreting sodium will track water, therefore facilitating their excretion. Pangalawa is the loop of Henle. Okay, sino naman yung nag-a-act dyan? As the name implies, mga loop diuretics. Loop diuretics. Mga dok, tingnan nyo. Sinong nare-reabsorb sa loop of Henle? Tingnan nyo. Okay? All the ions. Nakita nyo? All the ions. Kita mo? Kita mo? Ha? Kita mo yan? Lahat ng ions, di ba, sino? Potassium, calcium, magnesium, sodium, and chloride. So, I told you, anong default na ginagawa ng mga diuretics? They inhibit the reabsorption of all these ions. So, isipin mo, kung i-rank mo yung mga diuretics, sino yung pinaka-efficacious? The loop diuretics, because it can deplete all these ions. Diba, isipin mo si Kai, ano lang yung pwede niyang babaan? Si sodium bicarbonate. Diba? Si sodium bicarbonate lang. Si sodium, tsaka si bicarbonate. Yun yung pinafacilitate na excretion ni Kais. Pero for the loop diuretics, lahat. Lahat. Okay? That's why they are considered as high ceiling diuretics. For DCT, ano naman yung meron sa distal convoluted tubule? Sinong nare-reabsorb lang dito? Sodium and chloride. Sinong nag-work sa DCT? Yung mga thiazide. 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 Okay? So yung mga thiazide, sinong pwedeng pababain? Si sodium, saka si chloride. Pinafacilitate yung excretion ni sodium tsaka ni chloride. And lastly, okay, thiazide works on the DCT. Last na lang is yung mga potassium-sparing diuretics or the potassium spaters. Spaters. Okay, so they act on the collecting tubule. They act in the collecting tubule. Okay? So, sino naman po ang nare-reabsorb dito? Ang nare-reabsorb ay si sodium, chloride, and then potassium. Okay? Sodium, chloride, and potassium. So, sinong pinapababa ni potassium sparer. Kaya nga siya tinawag na potassium sparing diuretic. It spares potassium, but it could excrete sodium and chloride. Okay? Kaya siya tinawag na potassium sparing diuretics. Okay? And lastly, tingnan nyo sa DCT. Sino pa yung nare-reabsorb sa DCT? Si calcium. Tama? Si calcium. So, thiazide diuretics cannot affect calcium reabsorption in the DCT. So, it remains unaffected. Okay? Because this is governed by the PTH, parathyroid hormone. So, the one who controls calcium reabsorption is the parathyroid hormone. Okay? So, those are the diuretics. Let's now proceed with their mechanisms of action. Okay, so ano ba yung mechanism of action ng mga loop diuretic? Saan nga sila nag-act? On the loop of Henle. Loop of Henle. So, anong ginagawa nila? They block the sodium, potassium, chloride, porter in the thick, okay, ascending loop of Henle. So blocking the sodium, potassium, okay, chloride cotransporter, it will block, okay, the sodium, potassium cotransporter. Therefore, okay, blocking the extrusion of potassium and chloride going back to the blood and promoting the excretion of, okay, potassium, okay, preventing now the reabsorption also of magnesium and calcium. So all ions are reduced, okay, with the loop diuretics. Okay, that's why po, lahat po yan ay, okay, bumababa in terms of the loop diuretics. Okay, they are high ceiling diuretics. So, para hindi po kayo malito, yung yellow po, ito yung urine nyo. Yung blue, ito yung blood. Okay? So, balikan mo. Pag binlock mo to, okay, hindi mariri-absorb si sodium, potassium, tsaka si chloride. Tama? So, pag hindi pumasok si sodium, dito sa loob, hindi ma-activate yung sodium, potassium, ATPase. So, kung hindi na-activate yung sodium, potassium, ATPase, hindi papasok si potassium from the blood. Okay? Therefore, hindi gagana yung potassium chloride cotransporter. So, dahil walang potassium sa loob, walang lalabas na potassium papunta sa urine. Okay? So, dahil walang positive potential, hindi rin mariri-absorb si magnesium and calcium. That's how the loop diuretics work. Okay? So, blocking just one cotransporter would affect all the other ions reabsorption. Okay? Let's now move on to the thiazide diuretics. Yung mga thiazide diuretics naman, Doc, they block what we call the sodium chloride cotransporter in the distal convoluted tubule. So tignan nyo. Okay? Kapag daw po binlock mo si sodium chloride cotransporter, walang papasok na sodium tsaka chloride. So dahil walang pumasok na sodium tsaka chloride, hindi gagana si sodium potassium ATPase. Sodium will not be reabsorbed into the blood, okay? Because na-inhibit nga yung sodium chloride cotransporter. Okay? Pero what's unique about thiazide diuretics? I told you it only blocks sodium chloride cotransporter, therefore inhibiting the reabsorption of sodium and chloride. but it doesn't affect calcium because this is regulated by parathyroid hormones. So what is the net effect of the thiazide diuretics? Ay, nawala. Wala siyang net effect. So ang net effect niya is lowering. Ano yung pwede niyang i-lower, mga doc? It lowers sodium and then chloride reabsorption. Diba? So, in short, it enhances sodium chloride excretion while, okay, increasing calcium. Okay? So, mataas si calcium. It's left uninhibited because this is governed by the parathyroid hormone. Okay? Next, for the potassium-sparing diuretics. Okay? So, for the potassium-sparing diuretics, we have two classes. Yung blockers of ENaC. ENaC is epithelial sodium channel. And blockers of aldosterone. Okay, so dalawa sila. So first is the blockers of ENaC. So sino-sino po yung mga blockers of ENaC? Okay, that's amiloride and triamterene. So if they block sodium, it will promote the excretion of sodium. So dahil walang sodium na pumasok, hindi ma-activate si sodium-potassium ATPase. Therefore, okay, potassium will remain inside the cell and in the blood. Kaya siya tinawag na potassium-sparing diuretic. Ulit tayo. Nung binlock mo si ENaC, hindi pumasok si sodium. Dahil hindi siya pumasok, okay, hindi gagana yung sodium-potassium ATPase. Tama? Hindi ito gagana. Therefore, potassium remains inside the blood. Okay? So, hindi siya lalabas sa urine. That's why it's called potassium-sparing diuretics. So, that's for amiloride and triamterene. Okay? How about for the aldosterone antagonist? So, yung dalawa yon, spironolactone and eplerenone. Spironolactone and eplerenone. So, they will just block the receptor of aldosterone. So, blocking it will, okay, block ENaC and will block the sodium-potassium ATPase. Therefore, it facilitates the excretion of sodium while sparing potassium. So, sino yung dalawa na yan? Spironolactone and eplerenone. So, ito po yung summary. Amiloride and triamterene, blockers of ENaC, while spironolactone and eplerenone, they are blockers of aldosterone. Aldosterone. Okay? So this is the net effect, mga doc. Okay? Look, diuretics, they are the most potent in excreting sodium and chloride. Okay? Along with potassium wasting and calcium. How about for thiazide? Tignan nyo. Thiazide could effectively excrete sodium and chloride. Okay, along with potassium wasting. So, sumasama si potassium sa paglabas. However, it retains calcium. Okay? Thiazide diuretic retains calcium. How about for the potassium spaters? Tignan nyo. Okay? It could also, at some point, facilitate the excretion of sodium and chloride while retaining or sparing potassium. So, si potassium spaters lang po ang walang potassium wasting. All other diuretics have potassium a wasting activity. Okay po. Let's proceed with the adverse effects. Okay, for furosemide, okay, or the loop diuretics. So ano po yung kanilang side effects? Of course, lahat mababa. Kasi nga, high ceiling diuretic siya. Okay? However, the more common one would be the not directly related to its diuretic property. So the loop diuretics can induce hyperuricemia, which can flare, okay, the gout. Pwede siyang mag-cause ng gout. Okay, furosemide could also cause ototoxicity. Review tayo mga dok. Okay? Kung talagang nakikinig kayo kanina, sino nga yung group of antibiotics na nagkakos ng ototoxicity na sinabi ko, along with vestibulotoxicity? Can you help me recall in the chat box? Whose group of antibiotics? It starts with letter A. That's the clue. Sa board exam niyo, pwede kayong magtanong sa akin ng clue eh. Ibulsa niyo lang ako. Sasabihin ko yung first letter. Okay, amino. Correct. Amino glycoside. Amino glycosides, di ba? Kaya, mga dok, can we combine furosemide or the loop diuretics together with aminoglycoside? Can we combine it? Yes or no? Can you help me in the chat box? Yes or no? Okay, absolutely no. Because that can permanently what? That can permanently impair your hearing ability because of the synergistic ototoxicity. So never combine loop diuretics together with aminoglycosides. Okay? Remember that. Yeah. Next, thank you po sa mga sumagot. Very good sila. Nice. Nakakatuwa. Next, for the thiazide diuretics. Okay, all of these are lower. Okay. Except sino? Hypercalcemia because of PTH. So lahat mababa except calcium. How about those not attributed to its diuretic property? Okay, similar with the loop diuretics. Okay. Thiazide diuretics could also what? Can cause acute gout attacks. Pwede rin siyang mag-cause ng gout. Okay? Kaso ito yung pangit sa mga thiazide diuretics, mga dok. It has a metabolic side effect. Ano po yung metabolic side effect? It could increase sugar levels or glucose, and it could increase cholesterol. So if you have comorbidities like diabetes and hypercholesterolemia, you have to avoid taking thiazide diuretics because thiazide diuretics could trigger increase in blood sugar levels and blood cholesterol levels. Okay? Next, spironolactone. So, spironolactone, alam niyo yan. Okay? It can spare potassium because it's a potassium sparing diuretic. So, it could cause hyperkalemia. But take note, spironolactone, aside from blocking aldosterone, spironolactone could also block the androgen receptors. Okay, it's non-selective, kaya niyang i-block si androgen receptors. That's why it can cause what? Endocrine side effects. For females, it could cause menstrual disorders. For males, it can cause gynecomastia or impotence. Gynecomastia is the enlargement of the breast in males. And it could also trigger loss of libido for males. Okay, so tatandaan niyo po, spironolactone can also block the androgen receptor. Pero si eplerenone po, wala po siyang activity with the androgen receptor. Only spironolactone. Okay? And then, never combine triamterene, okay, with other drugs because it can cause kidney failure and kidney stone. Okay? Ano pa? Ito naman yung magandang effect ng spironolactone. Pag yung babae, marami siyang acne, pwedeng mag-take ng spironolactone because, okay, too much acne is in females is due to high levels of androgen. Okay, high levels of androgen. So, yung ibang mga derma, pag merong parang hormonal imbalance yung babae, kung hormones yung cause ng acne, pwedeng i-prescribe yung spironolactone kasi binablock niya rin yung mga androgen receptors. Okay? And sa lalaki naman, ito yung maganda. Pwede siyang mag-cause ng hirsutism. Ano yung hirsutism? Hypertrichosis. Okay? Hypertrichosis or hirsutism is what? Overgrowth of the hair. Yan, overgrowth of the hair. Kaso, pwede kang magkaroon ng impotence. Okay? So, again, it depends on the condition of the patient. Kasi meron siyang good and bad effects. Let's now move on with caffeine. Parang na-discuss ko na si caffeine, di ba? It's a weak diuretic that acts on the PCT or proximal convoluted tubule by blocking what receptors? Nabanggit ko na last time, the adenosine receptors. Next, for osmotic diuretics, okay, we have mannitol. So it causes osmosis, preventing water reabsorption. Saan ginagamit si mannitol? Intravenously. We use to increase urine volume, to reduce intracranial pressure and intraocular pressure. So binanggit ko na po last time yan. Mannitol could be used intravenously to lower the intraocular pressure and intracranial pressure. Okay? Because mannitol is an aquaretic, it can cause dehydration along with hyperkalemia and hypernatremia. Okay? Pero pag meron pang kidney disease, it can cause hyponatremia. Okay? So that ends our discussion for the diuretic. So we can stop here in the meantime so you can rest for the weekend. Okay, mga doc, do you have any questions so far regarding the antihypertensive agents for the diuretics? Okay, so on Monday, we'll continue our discussion. So mabilis na lang yan, mga 1 hour, and then 1 hour for anti-diabetic agents, and then mga 30 minutes for the local anesthetics. And then we will finish our topics for general pharmacology. Okay? So, yay! May question pa po? Wala. Ang ganda ng background ni Madam President, oh. Okay? So, mga Doc, if you don't have any question, thank you po. Enjoy the rest of the weekends and see you again on Monday. Hapon na kap.
Thank
Ingat
you
po.
you, sir.
Bounce na po si sir.
Thank you, sir po.
Thank you po.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, yan
Thank you
po.
po.